Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for December 9th of 2023. Currently, we have a slight risk for the eastern half of the United States. For southern Kentucky, the vast majority of Tennessee into Arkansas, Louisiana, vast majority of Mississippi, and northern Alabama into parts of Georgia there. Threats for today do include a 5% tornado threat for the slight risk region, a 15% wind threat for the slight risk region, as well as a 15% hail threat for the slight risk region. We aren't really seeing a dominating threat for any of these threats for today, because all of these alone would be enough to warrant a slight risk threat. But we are going to be primarily focusing on the tornado threat, but we will be touching on the wind and hail threat for today. For tomorrow, we do have a marginal threat for the eastern half of the United States, for Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. Threats for tomorrow do include a 2% tornado threat, 5% wind threat, and not really all that much of a hail threat. And then for our day 3 outlook, we currently don't have any forecasted areas for thunderstorms or any general thunderstorms. And then for day 3 to day 8 outlook, we currently don't have anything forecasted. Taking a look at our WBC outlook, starting off with our excessive rainfall forecast. For today, we are expected to see a slight risk for some of the more coastal regions of the Northwest there for Washington and Oregon. And then we also have a marginal threat for flash flooding for the areas that are going to be impacted by severe thunderstorms for today. And then for tomorrow, we do have a slight risk for the New England corridor for northern New Jersey, the New York City region, Connecticut, Massachusetts, as well as parts of southern New Hampshire and Vermont, as well as a marginal threat around that does extend across a very large portion of the eastern half of the United States, as well as another marginal threat for the Florida Panhandle into southern Georgia. And then we also have a marginal threat for the Northwest there. For some flash flooding. And then for day 3 outlook, we are expected to see a marginal threat for northern Maine there. And then for our winter weather outlooks for today, we are expected to see quite a bit of heavy snow for the northwest there for Washington, Idaho, Oregon, and Montana, as well as some heavy snow for the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and Wisconsin. And then for our day 2 outlook tomorrow, we are expected to see quite a bit of heavy snow for the Northwest again. And then we are expected to see quite a bit of snow for the eastern half of the United States. Anywhere from West Virginia up across the New England corridor for Pennsylvania, New York into Vermont, as well as the Erie region of Pennsylvania. And then for day 3 outlook, we are expected to see quite a bit of heavy snow for the New England corridor, anywhere from northern Maine into the Erie region of Pennsylvania. And then we can also take a look at our surface analysis and our frontal systems that we are currently seeing for today. As of right now, we are seeing a warm front that is beginning to develop, which will really define our warm sector for today. So as that warm front pushes eastward over the next or northward over the next couple of hours, that should bring a little bit more warmer temperatures as well as define our warm sector for our severe thunderstorms for today. And then this cold front is going to be what's triggering our threat for severe thunderstorms as it continues to push eastward. Um, and then we are expected to see quite a bit of front relative directional shear. On the eastern side of the cold front, we are expected to see quite a bit of southerly flow out of the Gulf of Mexico, and then on the western side of our cold front, we are expected to see quite a bit of westerly flow. So if we did put a pinwheel on the cold front, we would definitely see a strong rotation along that cold front. So we are definitely expected to see the possibility of some embedded tornadoes. Taking a look at our weather models, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, focusing on the slight risk region and this trough that is going to be supporting the threat for severe thunderstorms for today. This is also what's going to be driving our cold front eastward over the next couple of hours. Overall, in the exit region of the trough, we are seeing some fairly zonal mid-level flow, but the majority of our directional shear should be coming out of this very, very strong and prominent trough back towards the central plains, and that trough should really tighten up as it moves towards the east here and more towards the southeast. It should really tighten up and really provide really advect and provide ton of directional shear into the eastern half of the United States, as well as the directional shear with that relative to our cold front, we are definitely going to have quite a bit of directional shear to support the threat for a few tornadoes across this region. And we already have a tornado watch and a tornado warning. This was a PDS tornado warning earlier today. So again, the atmosphere is prime and ready for tornadic development. And again, we did see a PDS tornado warning and a strong tornado, fairly large and fairly strong tornado earlier today already. And we are already seeing um, some damage in that region, possibly due to that tornado that did blow through. So again, the atmosphere is ready and prime for tornadic development. So if you do live in any of the affected areas, definitely make sure you guys are staying weather alert. And again, this is going to be what's driving our our cold front forward. Um, as well as providing ton of directional shear to the area to support the threat for one or two brief tornadoes. And with how strong our mid-level flow is, again, we are expected to see quite a bit of speed shear. So we could definitely see the threat for some hail embedded in this line of severe thunderstorms as well. And then taking a look at our composite reflectivity, I'm going to be going over the when and where you should be able to see our severe thunderstorms for today. We don't really need a starting time because this is currently an ongoing threat, but we will be able to look at the areas that could potentially be impacted over the next couple of hours. As of right now, which is going to be around 1 p.m., we are seeing a line of thunderstorms organized along that cold front, and that's what's going to be pushing eastward over the next couple of hours with the threat of some embedded tornadoes, some hail, and damaging winds along that frontal boundary. And it is expected to impact Memphis in eastern Tennessee western Tennessee and western Kentucky into Arkansas around 1 p.m. Uh, and then around 2 p.m., we are expected to continue to see that push eastward. Again, hail embedded in that line as well with some of our purple colors there as well. And we are expected to see this line stop impacting Memphis around 3 p.m. And it is expected to impact and approach Nashville around 5 p.m. as well as extend into Mississippi and impact some of the cities of New Albany, Oxford, approaching Grenada and Cleveland in Mississippi. And then we should see this line begin to cross over the Cumberland Plateau and enter our Eastern Standard Time time zone and enter Alabama around 9 p.m. This is where things are really expected to be on a little bit more of a downward trend. Um, but still, we are expected to see a little bit more stronger instability back towards the south in Mississippi and Alabama, which is going to be keeping our line of severe thunderstorms a little bit more organized. As it's going to have a little bit more time, a little bit more difficulty trying to stay organized as it crosses over the Cumberland Plateau around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we are expected to see that line of thunderstorms combined with a little bit of a cluster of thunderstorms that is going to develop in Alabama. That is going to impact the Knoxville region around 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. tonight. Overall, around this time overnight, we aren't really expected to see a crazy tornado threat, but the possibility of tornadoes is still going to be there. Eastern Tennessee is still in at least a 2% tornado threat as of right now. We are expected to see some fairly weak and instability, but very, very strong directional shear. So we could definitely see some spin up in the atmosphere, especially with that cluster of thunderstorms that's going to develop in Alabama and make its way northeastward into Eastern Tennessee later tonight. So again, we will have at least a possibility of tornadoes, 2% tornado threat for tornadoes, even though instability is going to be a little bit more so on the weaker side tonight. So even though the tornado threat may not look all that significant, the threat for tornadoes will still be there later tonight across eastern Tennessee, with the majority of the tornado threat being back down into Mississippi and Alabama later tonight. So again, I do want to note that even though the tornado threat may not look all that significant later tonight across eastern Tennessee, the threat for tornadoes is still there with the insane amount of directional shear that we will have, as well as the possibility of the possibility of damaging winds and the possibility of some small hail as well. Getting into the deep nitty gritty of things now, we're going to be taking a look at our dew points. We are expected to see quite a bit of moisture that's going to be pulled out of the Gulf of Mexico by this trough and our strong southerly flow. This is going to keep very strong moisture ahead of that cold front, which is going to be supplying instability to that cold front constantly, which is going to be allowing for it to continue across the eastern half of the United States overnight as well. So we are expected to see some fairly strong moisture as well, but dew points are going to be getting anywhere from the 60s into the upper 60s, possibly getting into the low 70s around some of the more coastal regions of the Gulf of Mexico. And depending on our temperatures, which are going to be quite warm across this region, we are definitely expected to see some fairly good instability across this region, dependent on our temperatures. Taking a look at our temperatures, you can see that we are expected to have some fairly warm temperatures across this region being pulled out of the Gulf of Mexico by that trough. We are expected to see temperatures that could be getting up to the 80s in some portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, and even into Texas. It's going to be fairly warm in those affected areas, so we are expected to see quite a bit of instability for the areas that are going to be a little bit more warmer. But across the vast majority of the slight risk region, we are expected to see temperatures that are going to be ranging anywhere from 60 into 70 degrees. So that should give us quite a bit of instability, probably anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000, with maybe even the chance of some 3,000 in some of the areas where we could see temperatures up to the 80s. And for some of our more widespread temperatures, we are expected to see temperatures that are going to be getting below freezing behind the cold front. So anywhere from the west of this line, we could possibly see the threat of temperatures that could be getting below freezing tonight. So that's something you guys need to be watching out for. But for tomorrow, we could definitely see some warmer temperatures across the eastern half of the United States, as that cold front has yet to impact it. Taking a look at our instability, we are expected to see quite a bit of instability across this region, which is going to be fueling our threat for severe thunderstorms across this line for today. We are expected to see Cape values are possibly going to be ranging anywhere from 1,000 up to the low 2,000s in Mississippi, and models were indicating up to the 3,000s in Louisiana, and they still are, but overall has been decreasing a little bit. But we are definitely expected to see quite a bit of instability across this region. That's going to be supporting the threat for severe thunderstorms and the threat for tornadoes, hail, and damaging winds across this line for today. And then we can also take a look at when our instability is expected to cut out. We are expected to lose ample instability to support the threat for tornadoes, but maybe still a weak tornado threat across eastern Tennessee and anywhere north of the Tennessee border. Around 11 to 10 p.m. tonight, we are expected to lose that ample instability, but we are expected to see a little bit of some weak instability, and with the amount of directional shear that we have, which is expected to be quite strong, and I can show you that on our storm relative helicity models, we may be able to see a little bit of some spin up in the atmosphere, and you can see that we still are included in that marginal threat across eastern Tennessee, so we still could see maybe a very, very low end tornado threat. Later tonight, amongst some of the strong directional shear and weak instability. Overall, the threat for tornadoes across eastern Tennessee is going to be quite low, but still possible. So I wouldn't take that out as 0% because the threat is still there later tonight across eastern Tennessee. And then for some of the deeper southern states like Mississippi, Alabama and Georgia, we are expected to continue to see ample instability as that cold front kind of breaks away from the northern half, and we are expected to see a little bit of a tornado threat overnight for some of the deeper southeastern states. Taking a look at our energy helicity index values, starting off with a slight risk region ahead of that cold front, you can see we are expected to see some fairly good energy helicity index values. With energy helicity index values are going to be very indicative of that 5% tornado threat. With values that are going to be ranging anywhere from 2.5 to 3. And then you can also see when our tornado threat is expected to cut out for today. We are expected to see a little bit of a low end tornado threat later tonight through the deep southeast. as well as southern Tennessee. Again, we still may be able to see a very low-end tornado threat for eastern Tennessee, but the vast majority of it should be back down into the deep southeast, where we could see a 2% tornado threat later tonight. But again, for the eastern half of Tennessee, again, we are expected to see very strong directional shear, and we still are included in that 2% tornado threat. So again, we aren't seeing a 0% chance for tornadoes across eastern Tennessee tonight, even though it is going to be quite low. So still, if you live in the deep southeast and eastern Tennessee, still be staying weather alert, as the threat for tornadoes will still exist overnight and may even be fairly dangerous, as possibly as dangerous as what we're seeing as of right now with this 5%, because it will be at night and you will not be able to see anything ahead of time. Taking a look at our wind gusts, we're going to be taking a look at how strong we are expected to see our damaging winds for today. And along that cold front, we are expected to see wind gusts that could potentially be getting upwards of 40 to 50 miles per hour along that cold front. Again, we are definitely expected to see the threat for some damaging winds along that line for today. Taking a look at our bulk shear, I'm going to be focusing on our bulk shear so we can get an idea of what our hail threat's going to look like for today. You can see that we are seeing very, very strong bulk shear on our 0 to 6 kilometers, potentially getting up to 80 to 90 knots of shear backing the cold front. So we are definitely expected to see some elongated photographs, and definitely the threat for some hail embedded in that cold front that will progress across the eastern half of the United States for today. So again, we are definitely expected to see the possibility of some hail for today, including the threat of tornadoes and damaging winds. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay weather alert for the time being. And two other channels that I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather and Weather Watcher. The links to their channels will be in the description. And I want to congratulate Weather Watcher for finally hitting 1,000 subscribers. It is amazing how quickly he grew in the month of November and December. So again, congratulations for reaching 1,000 subscribers, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.